and welcome to Feels Like Magic, the podcast where you will get the grounded self-development wisdom you might need to feel amazing about the person you authentically are. I'm Jo, a transformational coach, speaker, and author, and for decades I was so stuck in self-criticism that I never thought I would feel good about being me. Now I inhabit a new reality, one where I care way less about what other people think. I'm willing to show up as the person that I am, and I deepen into self-love and acceptance every single day. Honestly, it feels like magic. Each week, I'll share scientifically proven tools, things I've learned from the world's best coaches, and personal stories I know you'll relate to. Ready? Let's dive in. Hello, beautiful human. So I am really excited, darling, to be offering a free masterclass. It's called What If I Can? And it is all about how we can bring safety into your mind and into your body so that you can go after the life you want, whether it's you want to quit the 9 to 5, or you want to have the new relationship, or you want to go and live in a different country, or you want to buy your dream house, or whatever it is. I really am going to be getting you into the energy of possibility and give you really practical tools that you can use to put yourself back there at any time. This is grounded, scientific, practical, really gorgeous work. And also it's going to give you such incredible energy to really go after your dreams. So I'm excited for you to experience it. I'm excited for you to be in it. And I can't wait to lead you through it. It's on the 17th of March at 7:30 p.m. UK time. But if you can't make that, you can also grab the replay. It will be there for a couple of days for you to catch up. And if you're at this level where you're like, I really want to change, but I notice I'm in a lot of negativity, a lot of fear, that I keep spiraling about what might go wrong instead of focusing on what is possible, this is the masterclass for you. And that if that's not for you, but you want to tell a friend about it, then please do. And you can sign up at joannebell.org/I can. Okay, my love, today we are going to talk about something very near and dear to my heart, which is your inner critic, that voice inside that tells you that you're not good enough, that things are not going to go your way, that you need to be afraid, that everyone hates you. Whatever it is, I know it so well, and I also know how normal it is and how painful it can feel. So this was me for decades. I was in the depths, the absolute depths, my love, of self-hatred. And I didn't even realize that I was doing it to myself. I had no idea about this concept. Like absolutely none. I mean, like maybe I'd heard the word inner critic, but I did not relate it to my experience. I just thought this is how I was and this is how I will feel about myself forever. So if you're there, what I want you to know is today I'm going to take you through what your inner critic is, like how it develops, why it's here, how we can work with it, and most importantly, how we can integrate it. Because when we reject any part of ourselves, we are sending a message that we're not completely whole. Your inner critic is not wrong. It's probably just developed in a way that is now very unhelpful for you. So I'm excited for you to dive into this. Have a notebook, have a pen, because you're really going to want to soak up things that are in here if you are on this journey of wanting to change your internal dialogue and really wanting to work with your inner critic so that it can be reassigned, maybe not to attack you, but to attack something, or to go after something, might be a nicer use of phrase, to go after something that you truly want and you truly desire. And so let's talk about how your inner critic develops. Your inner critic is a part of you that essentially thinks that if you do certain things, you are not going to be safe. It is a part of you that is programmed for threat, just like your nervous system. And this is why these two things go so hand in hand. So if you have a really fierce inner critic, you are probably going to experience a high level of anxiety. That is a little generalization, but it tends to be true. And here's why. We're programmed for threat. And when we think the threat is us, then we have this kind of false belief, again, all subconsciously, and we just loop in it. It just keeps going on. We know all of this. It's really like scientifically proven that we just stay in this loop where we're trying to protect ourselves from threat. Now, that's exactly what your nervous system does. Your nervous system has 3 states. It has secure. I'm here, I'm learning, I'm happy, I can be in the world. It has fight or flight, which is where things are really, really activated. And it's this sort of place where, if like you can't find your keys and you start to have those panicky feelings, that for me is what I always think about when I think about that fight or flight place. Because all of a sudden you're not in learning brain anymore, you're in survival brain. And again, this is a biological response. It's a reaction in your body. It's not who you are. Okay? So I really want you to know that. I think that's really important. And then the third stage of the nervous system is withdrawal, which is where you just go into complete fear and shut down and nothing feels safe. Now, with your inner critic, what it does is spew out self-criticisms because it thinks that if it is harder on you than anyone can be on you, and it has evidence, by the way, that somebody wasn't kind to you at some point in your life. Because if people always told you you were brilliant and amazing, you always felt like that about yourself, this part would not be developed and it would not be as sophisticated as it is. But that is not the human experience. It's just not. It's absolutely not. So I really want you to know that this part of you, this critical part of you, really thinks that it's here for your safety. It thinks that it's here so that you are not put into that threat response. And because we believe what our inner critic says, this is where it's paradoxical and confusing. When we believe what our inner critic says, we actually can put ourselves into that nervous system response. We can put ourselves into the feeling of threat, even if we're just going to do something like post on Instagram. Because our inner critic is shouting loudly, we're believing what it's saying, and therefore we're going into the response in our biological body that is the threat response. So I just want to explain and contextualize that a little for you. And the thing that we quite often do when we discover that we have a really harsh inner voice, this for me, like I didn't understand this for so long. And when I did and suddenly realized, I was like, oh my gosh, my life would be so much easier if this part wasn't there. This part was gone. And I've had coaches in the past that have just been like, just tell it to go away. That does not work, my love. And the reason it doesn't work is what I said before. When we reject a part of ourselves, we don't feel whole and complete because we're always kind of living in fear. We're handing our power away to that part. And most of the time, your inner critic is your inner child. It's a scared young part that learned to protect you from rejection, from abandonment, from anything that it experienced. So we want to be giving this part a lot of reassurance and a lot of love. And what I would love for you to do is to just take a moment right now to breathe. Maybe put one hand on your heart and one hand on your belly, and to just send some thanks inward to this part of you. Thank you, inner critic, for being here and for trying to protect me. I love you. You get to be here. Like sending that message is so transformational because you probably have spent quite a long time fighting this part of yourself. So let's welcome it in. Let's welcome it in, my love. And then we get to start the work of really navigating how we can use this part rather than reject it. Okay, so here is what we will do. Once we have this understanding, there's a part of me that wants to spit out criticisms that I can sense, I can feel, and maybe it attacks a certain part. Maybe it's always going after your appearance. Maybe it's always going after your ability at work. And what I would like you to be aware with, and maybe just connect some dots, this is not about diagnosing or anything like that. But think about, okay, as a child, like, did I feel that I was good enough just as I was? Or did I feel that I had to look a certain way, or I had to behave in a certain way, or I had to perform in a certain way? And I want you to remember that when we do inner child work, it's anything from 0 to 25. That's when our brains really stop developing. So anything with that, within that time period, inner child, inner teenager, inner young woman, all of that counts as the time where this could be happening. So connecting the dots can be really, really helpful. I know for me, the way in which I felt most different was in the way that I looked. And I look back and I'm like, you were beautiful. But because I was so tall and I felt so out of place and I felt different anyway, all of these things kind of conspired to if you change the way you look, your life is going to be better. And that's what my inner critic forced me towards for years. That became an eating disorder. It became like the depths of self-hatred. It became pushing men away, all of these sorts of things, because this part of me was truly, truly running the show. And this is what we want to avoid. Yes, this part gets to be here, but we don't want it to run the show, because when it runs the show, all it's going to do is to try and keep you exactly where you are so that you're not under threat. So it thinks if it keeps you where you are and what is familiar and what is known, and it'd be really interesting for you to reflect on this actually, like for how many of us is suffering normal? Is struggle normal? Is that like an actual comfort zone? Now, we might not like it, but it is what we know, so we go back to it. And that's what the inner critic is fueling a lot of the time. When we're going to be stepping out into the world and launching a business or quitting our job or going after our dream, it is going to get really, really loud, and it's going to tell you all the reasons why you can't. And what we want to do to work with this part is to really hear it out, because ignoring it doesn't work. It just doesn't work. And I'm going to give you a personal practice of mine that I've used many, many times. I even did it this morning. I just came back to it because this is not a one and done. This is a learning about how to work with this part of you for maximum impact. And this part is like, I've heard James Doherty, who's like, he wrote Mind Magic and Into the Magic Shop. He's a beautiful author. He talks about it like a bloodhound, like it just goes after the thing. And the thing in this instance is you. So we want to start to open up to like, okay, could we repurpose this incredible energy that this part has? And could it go after something that I really, truly want and desire in my life? But I'll get to that. To keep things simple, I'm going to give you two really accessible tools that you can use right now, straight away. One is a journaling tool, and the other is something you can just do inside in terms of your internal narrative. And both of these work beautifully, and you can experiment with how they might work for you. Okay, so let's start with the first tool. So when you start noticing the things that you are saying to yourself and the things that your inner critic is saying. So for example, my inner critic used to tell me that I was lazy a lot. Like I was lazy. It was just something that came up again and again in kind of different forms. I was lazy, I was reckless, I was careless, all these things. And what I learned to do was to really notice when that story came up. Okay, my inner critic is telling me that I'm lazy because I'm sitting down and I'm resting. Okay, so that's here, that's clear, that's present, that's here. Okay, got it. Now, is that true? Is it like totally true that I'm lazy? And at the time where this was really coming up for me, I was actually working full time as a teacher, and I had written a whole novel and I had a social life and I had just come out of a relationship. So like, I was like, no, actually this, like, even though it feels real, it's not real. It's just a story. It's not real. And so one thing that you can do is to start negotiating with your inner critic. And you can say things, and it's really about neutralizing the emotion that can be surrounded by these things. So you can say, I just don't deserve that. Or actually, that's not true. If we're really honest, that's not true. And really bring it back to neutral. Really bring it back to neutral. Okay? That's not fair. Right? Whatever it might be. And you need to find words that really land for you in your body, but start to just challenge what your inner critic is saying. You can just do this internally. Okay, my inner critic is saying this. Huh, that's not fair. I don't think I deserve that. I don't think I deserve that. It's actually one of my favorites because it really is you just standing up for yourself. But what we're not doing is silencing this part. And I really want you to notice that we're not silencing it. It doesn't need to go away. It can be here. And we get to be in conversation with it. Now, a lot of the time, your inner critic just needs that reassurance. It needs to know that you got it. It needs to know that you are on it and that you're going to be all right, that it doesn't have to protect you from the threat. And immediately, as soon as you can reassure it a little, you will feel the difference in your body because your nervous system is going to move into a different state. So I want you to just play around with this. Just play around with it, experiment with it, see if it works for you. And then we have tool number 2. Okay, so this second one is one that I personally have used and will use probably forever. It's so simple. And sometimes, my love, the simplest things are the most effective. And for that reason, we can really underestimate their power. It is so, so simple, I promise. So, what I want you to do is I just want you to get a journal and I want you to write at the top of the page, unsupportive thoughts. Unsupportive thoughts. That's all you need to write. And then underneath that, I want you to write down every single thing that your inner critic is saying, like everything. Like just go for it. It can be about anything, like anything that is in your head, get it down on the page. Now, this can be really confronting, especially the first time you do it, because you don't want to think that you speak to yourself like this. But guess what? You do. You just do. And ignoring it isn't going to make it go away. So take a breath and be with it. But get these unsupportive thoughts out on the page, because then we can start to work on them. And what I want you to do is I want you to write until you're empty. Like write until it gets so ridiculous about what it's saying. I love that place where you're like, okay, I know this one isn't true because I just know it isn't. I have like clear evidence. And then I want you to take a breath. I want you to smile. I want you to congratulate yourself. I want you to say, thank you, inner critic, for letting me know what you're feeling, what you're thinking. And then I want you to take a second page. And at the top, I'd like you to write supportive thoughts. And on this page, my love, what we're not going to do is gaslight ourselves. So if you are really worried about finances, for example, and your inner critic is saying you're so stupid, how could you get yourself into credit card debt? What you could say is, it's okay to get into debt. People do it every single day, and I'm going to find a way out. So it's about the texture of what you're saying. If your inner critic is attacking your performance in a meeting and it's saying it was so stupid for you to say that, nobody cares about what you think. You could just come back with supportive thoughts. I prepared and I did my best. That's all I expect of myself. Okay. So again, we're not gaslighting, but we're just leaning into slightly more positive. Okay. Leaning into that kind of mature adult voice. Remember, inner critic is very often the scared inner child. So be the mature adult. Be the voice for yourself that's going to hold the line for yourself. If your inner critic is attacking your appearance and saying, you look horrible in that dress. I see women do this all the time. It's actually one of the genesises of why I became a coach, because I saw how horrible women are to themselves and how we're so conditioned into attacking ourselves. And my love, it's not okay. It's not okay. So if you do this, stop it right now. Say that it was going to say that. You could say, I love this dress. You know, it's okay if I don't feel fully confident about the way I look. The way I look is not the most important thing about me. So I really want you to come in and I want you to start challenging, really challenging what your inner critic is saying, right? And this does take thought and it takes work and it takes presence, but it's very, very possible for you. Now, the thing that may come up is that you actually have a little bit of an addiction to those inner critic stories, because guess what? They're your comfort zone. They are your comfort zone. So what you got to get really clear on with yourself is, at what cost? What happens if I continue to believe this about myself until the day that I die? And really, really go there, because sometimes we need to understand the cost in order to make the change. Making change is not easy. That's why people don't do it. That's why people don't do it. But you're not one of those people. You're listening to the end of this podcast because you're here for yourself. You're supporting yourself and you are ready, my love, to really work with this part of yourself. Now, this part is so sophisticated and so clever and has so much to offer. Your inner critic really does. So there's also like, can I redirect this energy? Can I redirect the way that I'm like attacking myself into something? Like, what if I took all of the energy I've been taking towards doing that and I put it into this project? Or I even spent an hour just experimenting and playing with that. Like, can I shift the energy? Can I be with the energy? Can I integrate it? Can I integrate it? And again, just really get curious. Get curious. I would love to know what lands for you. I would love to know if you still have questions about your inner critic. Email me, DM me, let me know, because this is an area of such deep growth. And there are layers, right? So sometimes we need to go deeper and choose to do that deeper healing work in order to free up our inner child and really come into a place of deeper peace with ourselves. And sometimes this kind of tool can be enough. So experiment with it, see what it does for you. I'm sending you so, so much love. If you want more, come to the masterclass. What If I Can? It's going to be a beautiful space where we really get into that energy, because your inner critic is going to tell you that you can't do certain things. And that is something, again, that we get to challenge and we get to start to work with. And when you can start to support yourself, what I can tell you from my personal journey is, yes, there are the outward things, right? There's like building a business and moving country and all of this stuff that I've been able to do. But the thing that is priceless to me is the peace that I have within. All of that could go away and the peace that I have within would remain. I would still love myself even harder through it. I will never turn away from myself again, because that's something that I promised. And that is just a game changer. So I want you to know it is possible, from someone who is in the depths of hating herself to now, I'm not special. I just learned how to be with this part, and I committed to myself and I invested highly in myself so that I could live the life that I truly wanted to live. All right, my loves. Until next week, I'll see you soon. Lots of love. Bye. Thank you so much for being here and being you. If you're ready to dive deeper on your self-development journey, visit joannebell.org, where you can sign up to get even more magic, access incredible bonuses, and find out more about working with me.